So anyway, I decided to go to the smaller studio. There used to be the Hammer Horror Films. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of the Hammer Horror Films. Horror films were made, and they were making a film called Space 1999. It was a TV series.
Good gracious, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Anyway, I went down there, and they said, "Oh, model maker." Now that, I'm afraid, whoops, was a lie. I never actually made any models in my life when I was a kid, but I was making a rocking horse. You know, a rocking horse?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was making this rocking horse because I thought maybe the Americans would like to buy rocking horses. So I was wanting to set up my own business. And I was making it in my garage. And I had some pictures, rough pictures of the idea of it. Anyway, I took the pictures with me and I showed these. And a special effects guy down there said, "Ooh, that looks like it could be good." I said, "Oh yeah, it's fantastic, blah, 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 blah." Anyway, he showed me around the studios and he said he had a film coming on. Now at the time they were doing Alien. So anyway, where was I? I was going down the studio. Oh yeah, Pinewood Studios. So they said use the second gate. So okay, there's a second gate. So just drive in there and pretend you know what the hell you're doing. Well, I thought that'll come easy. So I actually did drive past the main gate and I waved to this grippy guard. I think it was the same guard. I swear to God it was. And I got to the second gate and I drove up and there was this bar down there and the guy's looking for the security pass. And I just waved to him. And he opened the gate up and I drove in. Oh, wow. I mean, Pinewood Studios, where they make, you know, the James Bond films, and they had, I think they had, what did they have at the time? I think they had Flash Gordon. They were doing the beginnings of Flash Gordon anyway. I got to work on that for a while. Anyway, I drove in there, and I parked the car, and I thought, what do I do now? You know, I'm in the famous Pinewood Studios. Oh, my God. So I got out the car, walked around, and I found buildings way away from the James Bond set, in actual fact. And I was knocking at every single door saying, "Have you got any work? I can do model making." And I found this guy called Peter Lamont, and he's a famous art director. And he was working on...
Name's familiar.
Well, he's actually worked on all the Bond films. He's nearly as old as me, I think. And he said, "Oh, really? Oh, model making. Okay." He said, "The guy's out in the lot playing with some radio toys." Right. So I went out there, I found the guy in charge of special effects. He said, "I think I might have something for you. Go back to the office where Peter is and tell him." So I went back, told Peter. Nah, he wouldn't believe me. So he said, "Sit down." 2 hours later, the director of special effects comes in. I thought, this is all right, you know, pretending I knew what the hell I was doing, which of course I didn't. And they said, "I got something coming on called Star Wars." Oh yeah, and maybe there'll be something for you. But I said, I want work now if possible, you know. So I'll go to Pinewood. I thought, oh no, here we go again. So I said, you know, there's no way I can work, I can get in there. "Oh, you're not going through the front door." And he gave me all the models for Moonraker, which is one of the James Bond films. So it was worth the 2-hour wait.
Finds his girlfriend for life?
That is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct.
That's the one.
That's the one. So I did all these space models in that one, and that was a really fantastic job. And when that finished, I also got an R2D2. I think it was the only person who would take it on, because it was a pretty tricky robot to do. Anyway, that's cutting the whole story down nice for you. I set up my own work studio. I started employing on that one for R2D2. I think I had 40 people working for me. Yeah, 40 people, and we worked 5 months, 2 shifts, so really it was like 10 months. Do 8 R2D2s. And that's how I got into it. But the strangest thing about it, and I think I was telling you the other day, was that how I got into this business, or how I got into being a medium. And that was, I was about 18, and I was with my girlfriend Victoria, and we were sitting around with some friends one evening, talking about things that go bump in the night. And all of a sudden, she was blonde, and she just became black hair, dark skin, and totally changed features. And there was 3 of us all together, myself and a friend and my girlfriend. And it freaked us out at 12 o'clock at night. So we ran from this dormitory, because it was a dormitory for a research establishment, which I was working for at the time. Ran down the stairs, ran out into the car park, screaming our heads off like girls. And nothing offence by girls, by the way, nothing offence. And she came running after us, saying, "What's the hell's wrong? What's wrong?" And we said, "Da da 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 da." You changed. You're taken over. She says, "Was I? Oh, I didn't notice anything." I said, "You were." So that was absolutely terrifying. I mean, I had no idea about spirit, no idea about ghosts, no idea about anything. And like it's my wand, I said, right, we're going to find out what this is all about. So we had a spiritualist church, which was basically, I think people here probably know, it was set up by the Fox sisters in America.
I want to understand a bit more about just how to actually draw into oneself and reach into the creativity initially. You obviously got a very creative bent, and these creations of yours have gone a long way and will be around for a long time. So can you perhaps talk to us about how you tap into that creativity and bring it out into manifestation and really harness it?
When I was trying to solve the problems for R2D2, and there was some major problems, because George Lucas, who I was working for, he had no real idea what he was going to get R2 to do, and so he came up with a flimsy idea of using loose panels. There's about 200 loose panels all around R2D2. And there was also a problem of the weight. We had to get it to drive. We didn't have the kind of batteries we have now. And it had to be light for some of the ones I made for Kenny Baker, the small actor. So basically it was absolutely enthralled with problems. So what I did, a technique I learned when I was doing my studies with my guide, was to go into astral, build a small home. I used a cave because I'm into that kind of thing. Excuse me. And I used to stand the R2, potential R2, in the center of the room and basically walk around it. Now, that technique I'd been using for a very, very long time, but I say a very long time, it would have been about 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years. But I knew, back in my mind, earlier than that, I'd been using the similar idea. And I never really put it together until later. And when I started studying what we used to call New Age, I realized this was a technique that many of the monks have used. When I was in China, because I worked in China as well, I was fortunate enough to study under some of the Tibetan monks there, because they have their studies and their homes there as well as in Tibet. The monasteries are in both places. And when I was there, I found that this technique is a very, very old technique of building somewhere in astral where you can actually move into and then use all the facilities of your mind and your different consciousness. So that's how I really, really started solving problems. And I used it for so many, well, I think practically every work I worked on, right even down to Formula One racing cars. I hadn't had time to talk to them about it, but actually to check with them if they find that that's one of their secret methods of obtaining the kind of insight they need into the subconscious and into people's powers and potential power. And you can also invite people there. And this is another thing I found very powerful. I mean, the place I found my guides was the first time I actually built my cave. They came to me, and I could actually sit down, and I'm going like, this is my area. And then, of course, I found out why. There were people that actually were helping me along my path. So really, that's the power of the lectures I give. A couple of people spoke to me, which gave me a very strong impression. This is a good place to be. And that's why I'm here now for.